Hello, welcome to another edition of 30 Minutes with the Author. I'm your host, Lori Kriever. In this edition, we are joined by Jean Antonello, and she has written How to Become Naturally Thin by Eating More, and also Breaking Out of Food Jail. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So let's talk about dieting. Dieting is such an American thing.
Obsession.
Obsession. I was always going to say pastime, but I like obsession better. But you are in that rare camp of people that is saying, knock it off, it doesn't work.
Worse than that, Lori. Actually, dieting causes weight gain in the long run. And my book describes how that happens. It sounds like that can't be possible. Certainly,
it sounds like it can't be possible.
That's because it's logical to think that if you eat less food, you're going to lose weight. You take less in, you burn more calories than you're taking in, your body will have to give up weight. And that's true. That happens temporarily.
Okay.
But did you know that 98% of people who lose weight by dieting, by taking in less food, gain back all that weight within 2 to 5 years, most within 2 years.
Wow.
So that means dieting does not cause weight loss. It causes temporary weight loss. And what are we after? Are we after temporary weight loss? No. We're after a new body.
Ah, you want to be thin and gorgeous forever.
Of course.
Yes. So does this have something to do with the caveman, or kind of like the history of how our human bodies got developed?
That's very good. It does exactly, and I'll tell you how. Before we had the ability to preserve food the way that we can now, our bodies had to have a way of preserving food inside itself. Each body has this adaptive potential, or this ability to store food inside itself when there's not enough food present in the environment. That is, maybe during a long winter when saved nuts and foods that would store well would run out or run low. The body had to have a food storage system inside itself in order to keep the body going during that time. And that food storage system is fat. So fat actually plays a very important role in our survival. Unfortunately, though, today we have food all around us.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
If you only need to store food inside yourself because food runs out, why are we all storing fat? Well, I'll tell you.
Oops.
Because we're not eating food when we need to eat food. We're either not eating food when we need to eat because we're reckless about our eating, or we're dieting. And undereating is the trigger, just as in the olden days,
yeah.
the trigger for fat storage was undereating or going without food. The trigger for fat storage now is undereating. So when we avoid food on a diet, we're actually setting our bodies up to need to store fat. It's terrible, I know.
That is a betrayal.
It's terrible.
Yes, and I want to say too, for people at home, that you're a registered nurse.
That's right.
Correct?
That's right.
And didn't you spend a good part of your nursing career working with people that had what you call eating disturbances, or what the
Yes.
general population might know as eating disorders?
Yes.
So can you talk about your evolution from working with people who were under some type of medical or psychological treatment, and what you observed that led you to writing your books?
Yes, I can. First of all, it's important to know that I also was struggling with my weight during the time that I was observing people who were struggling with eating problems, eating disabilities, eating disorders, whatever you want to call them. They were having a problem with food. They couldn't just comfortably sit down and eat when they got hungry and get up when they were done and feel at peace about it. They were trying to not eat. They were trying to eat less. They were trying to control their intake because they were unhappy about their weight for some reason or another. Mm-hmm. And when I first began to research dieting in order to understand why I didn't seem to be able to lose weight permanently through dieting, I observed one thing in interviewing the people that I was observing. I observed one thing that was consistent throughout all the people that I talked to and that I interviewed, and it was this: that people who go hungry for a period of time, or try to eat less than they want to eat for a period of time, whether it's on purpose they're dieting, or they just don't have enough food, maybe they don't have enough money at the end of the month and they go hungry for a period of time. But any restriction of food in any person, surgery, illness, any reason, causes ultimately for a person to lose some degree of control over their eating behavior. I'll give you an example.
Wow.
I was on a diet when I was a freshman in college, and it was a rather severe diet. It was a protein-oriented diet. I was trying to give up bread and all sweets, and I stuck mainly with meats and went to bed starving every single night. In fact, I remember lying on the dorm room floor, looking at the ceiling, unable to sleep sometimes because I was so hungry. Well, I think I lost about 30 pounds during that semester. That's very rapid weight loss in my estimation. Now, we went on a summer holiday in California right after that, and at the first party, I lost control of eating so badly that I actually became ill. I became so sick from eating so much food that I had to go to the emergency room.
Oh my gosh.
And it wasn't even sweets, it was just the food that was picnic food.
Right, even good stuff that would ordinarily be fine, healthy.
I just kept eating and eating, and there was something that was in control of my eating behavior that was not me. I also have interviewed many people who successfully dieted for a period of time or were sick for a period of time and couldn't eat, and then after the period of under-eating found themselves eating sweets, just gorging on sweets, eating a whole pie or cake and boxes of cookies or gallons of ice cream, and feeling terrible about it, knowing that it's not the right kind of food to eat, that it's not the kind of food that's really good for them or helpful, but they all reported this loss of control. I took it seriously, and I tried to understand what was in control of these persons' eating behavior at that point if it wasn't themselves, and it clearly wasn't themselves.
Right.
And I finally began to understand that it was their survival instinct that had actually taken over for their eating behavior. Their bodies had taken the controls in order to make sure that they would stay alive, because if they had kept on the same path that they had set themselves upon, they might have starved themselves to death.
So this idea kind of flies in the face of what has been going on the last 20 years to assist someone out of an eating disorder, which is that that person has deep psychological problems. Something happened in their childhood, or they're just wired incorrectly and they can't control themselves around food. And so I think that can really weigh heavily on somebody, whether it's obesity, anorexia, bulimia that they're trying to get help with. But you're saying, no, it's not really that.
It's not about that.
Let's look at your food intake.
It's not about that, and I'm very confident about that because I've coached hundreds and hundreds of people, and all of the people that report when they're dieting, that report eating from boredom, eating from upsetment, anxiety, tension, guilt, problems in their childhood, etc., when they begin to actually eat enough good food on time, that is when they get hungry until they're satisfied, and they begin to do that over a regular period of time, on a regular basis over a period of time, they stop binging. The preoccupation with food goes away. They begin to choose healthful foods. They eat normal amounts of food. They begin to feel like exercising more and taking better care of their bodies. So it is not a psychological based problem. It is more a problem of physical adaptation to an environment where food is restricted. If you restrict food, you're going to wage a war with your body, and it's a war that we're really not designed to win. Our survival instinct is designed to win it.
Right, because your body will actually like bypass you.
That's right.
You know, and start making the decisions.
So you'll stay alive. That's
Yes.
right. In order to ensure your survival, your body can actually overstep your will. And that is the confusing thing about the dieter that loses control. And I remember being in this condition as a dieter for 17 years, many, many, many times. And I was educated. I knew about nutrition. I was certainly motivated. I had everything that I needed to be a successful dieter, if anybody was going to be a successful dieter. And so does Oprah, by the way. But the fact is, the one thing that I could not do was override my own survival instinct. And Oprah can't either.
Yeah. Yeah, what an astute observation. Okay, well, let's speak to the viewer that's sitting at home right now, male or female, and they've been, to some degree, on a dieting roller coaster and have been trying on and off to severely restrict their food intake, and they're tuned in right now and they're thinking, oh my gosh, this could help me. Let's talk about solutions. Where do you start with someone who has been really restricting food intake and they're saying, I can't do this. I can't eat the recommended 2,100 calories a day, or it's just not real to me.
Usually, by the way, the recommended caloric intake is much less than 2,100 calories. But for some people, 2,100 calories is much too restrictive. That's really true, especially people who are working out. The place that I would say to start is to get information first. And watching this show is the first place to get that information. Number one, acknowledge that you haven't ever been a successful dieter in the long run. That is, you might have lost hundreds and hundreds.
Turn yourself in.
You might have lost hundreds and hundreds of pounds, which I had lost probably 1,000 pounds over time. But I think you have to face the fact that you have never been able to keep it off.
Yeah.
You might have gone down, but you've never been able to keep it off. And maybe you wish you could possibly weigh now what you weighed when you started dieting.
Yeah.
A lot of people feel that way. They say, oh my goodness, I only weighed about 140 when I started dieting, and now I weigh 240.
Yeah.
And
yes, that's a common phenomenon.
And that is because dieting, that is the restriction of food in the environment, leads to weight gain in the long run. That's evidence of it. The more I diet, the fatter I get. That's really true. So face the fact, number one, that you have not been able to be a successful dieter in the long run.
And nobody has.
No.
So you're not alone, and don't be ashamed. And
no, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's already, it actually hasn't been your fault. You just haven't understood that you have been fighting a war that you are not designed to win. Your most powerful basic biological instinct is up against your will, and you're not going to win this one.
Yeah, actually, you've been fighting a war that you yourself have been unwittingly waging.
Exactly. Exactly. And a war that you are biologically designed to lose in order to stay alive.
Right, because your body is not reading GQ and Cosmo and...
No. No, that's exactly right. You've got it, Laurie. You have it exactly. And when people read my books and understand for the first time the impossible situation they've been in all of these years, many times decades and decades of diet, chronic dieting, and just this relentless weight rebounding afterwards, and they finally understand that it is not their fault. Well, some people just fall apart because they have felt so guilty for so long, and that it was their fault, and that if they have been, weak-willed or sinful or worse.
Yes.
So take the blame right off your shoulders and just acknowledge that this is part of your physiology, and it's not a bad thing. It's something you have to work with, though. The third thing you have to do is accept that you are responsible for your eating behavior. That is very, very important.
Paista vaikka patsaat ja